Hey, it's Paul Blough. It's time for another 5x5, and today we have a question, and that is that can I buy used computer equipment? And particularly what we're going to be talking about is like PCs and servers, things that might have a data file structure to them. And can I do that? Is it safe? What's the gotchas in regards to that? So I'm going to try to make this pretty straightforward and simple for you. The answer is maybe. I know that was really clear, right? And so that means yes sometimes and no in other conditions. There are a couple considerations. First of all, I want to talk about lifespan. So PCs in particular, PCs and servers have a 3-year technical lifespan and a 5-year physical lifespan. And so you really need to know that how old the piece of equipment is. And so if it's a 5-year-old PC or server, even if it's $100 or $200 that somebody is offering to sell it to you for, it's probably not worth it. Probably fully depreciated and probably is so slow and also so ready to fail that it's really not a good investment. So I would never buy anything over 5 years old. Really wouldn't buy anything over a couple of years old. But what about things that are off lease? Like maybe somebody bought something and they had a 2-year or a 3-year lease, and then you can get it a lot less expensive. And it still has some years of viability to it. We've checked that. Okay, so that's not a bad deal, because you may have a really tight budget and you're okay with having a couple-year-old equipment. So what would be my concerns in doing that? Well, number one, you need to make sure that you're doing it from a reputable company, somebody that is actually licensed by Microsoft to be able to redispose those PCs, because believe it or not, the Microsoft operating system that runs on those computers cannot be transferred usually between one company and another. And so if I buy a computer with Microsoft Windows on it and then I try to sell it to you, I'm probably either you or me or both of us are probably in violation of Microsoft's licensing. And if Microsoft catches us in that, it could be a pretty big fine, and it could be very, very expensive. It may deactivate the Windows. They may sue you. There's all kinds of those scenarios. But there are certified companies that Microsoft allows to recondition these equipment. If you buy it from one that is certified as a Microsoft reprocessor, then you're going to be okay. So that's the first gotcha. So we'll make sure that it's not too old. Secondly, we're going to make sure that we're buying it from somebody who is actually allowed to resell that equipment and not be in violation of Microsoft's operating system licensing. Now, on top of that, though, we really need to look at valuation. And so you need to have a good idea of what a new PC costs. And a new PC, depending on what you're looking for, a home PC can be as little now as $200 to $300 for a very, very basic computer, brand new computer. A business computer, we really like to think about them being more in the $600 price range, about twice as much. But there's some reasons for that, and we could do another program to kind of tell you the difference between a home PC and a business PC and why they're more expensive, but they're worth it. So considering the price of the piece of equipment that you're looking at, you need to depreciate it over that 5-year cycle. In other words, if it was originally a $1,000 computer, and but it's in its it's 2.5 years old, then it's really only worth about $500, because we're half of its lifespan. And so you can see what you ought to be paying. And a lot of times when I've looked online and I've looked at some of these auction sites, or I've looked at some of the people that do the refurbishing of equipment, I find that they're really not charging much less than what I could purchase it new. Maybe $100 for a machine that's 1 or 2 years older, and from a discount standpoint, and it's just not enough. My perspective is that we made a decision quite a long time ago that we don't We don't sell used equipment. We don't put used equipment in. We always do new equipment because we want to get the most lifespan out of that once we place it at a customer's location. And that's the most disruptive piece, is when we replace the computer. There's a lot of time involved in moving information from one computer to the next. So keep that into consideration. It's not a bad idea. A lot of nonprofits with very limited budgets will find opportunities, and some even small businesses that with very, very tight budgets will find some of these off-lease equipment, particularly from the major manufacturers, Hewlett-Packard or Dell, where a big corporation has had them. They've cleaned those computers. My last little caveat, though, is be very, very careful because when you get a hold of that computer, you want to make sure that you don't actually accidentally have access to somebody's information. We've seen a few situations where people thought they cleaned out a computer before they sold it to somebody else, but yet they've left some very sensitive personal information on there, and that could wind up costing you quite a bit, both either from a fine or from a standpoint of a lawsuit or some type of other penalty, just reputation damage, if nothing else. So there's your caveats in looking at buying used equipment. Not always a bad idea, but be cautious.